Okay, we're here with Rick Bussard. Did I say that right?
Senior.
Rick Bussard Senior.
Right on.
And Rick Bussard came and he brought this very unique, interesting little Bakersfield artifact here. And I wanted Rick to explain how he found it and where and when.
Well, it was at my mother's house, under the house. My son, who is now 44, and I were visiting my mother, and he went into the basement, and the house was built up on a foundation. There was crawl space, and he wormed his way back in there. And he found that. Well, there was a case of them.
Okay, so he went under there. You went under there after him.
Right.
Found these magazines from 1938 from Los Angeles, and then also a case of these empty beer bottles. Okay, and then your mom's house is in, you said, Casa Loma?
It was in the Casa Loma Acres.
Okay, and how long had she lived there? This was in the 70s, I'm assuming, that you found all this stuff.
Yeah, probably in the 70s.
Late 70s.
Because my mom died in the early 80s.
Okay. And so this was in a crawl space under a house in Casa Loma that she had owned for how long before you found this?
I'm going to say they moved there in 1954, 1955.
Okay. And so it was already an established house?
Yeah.
Right. So you're thinking that maybe the workers who built the house might have left these items?
The man that built the house, I believe his name was Malcolm Good. And then he sold it to my folks. And it appeared to me that they had to form the concrete foundation up above the ground. And after work, because there's several dates on these newspapers, after work, looked like he sat down inside there, had a beer. When they finished, put it down and kept on building the next day and just covered it up. That purely speculation on my part.
All right. Well, okay. And these magazines are Los Angeles Times from 1938.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. And this beer bottle, you didn't know anything about this. It's Old Kern Beer, Kern Brewing Company. Well, I talked to a few of my little experts, and they went hunting some information. And this brewery started here in 1937, September 1937. They came in with a big flash. They were going to spend lots of money. They built a big brewery over on Union Avenue, where Snyder's Cyclery is now.
Okay.
And they had pictures of it. They had a contest in early 1938 before they started selling their first batch. They put out word that they would give $100 for somebody to name the beer. And $100 in 1937 was about $2,000. They had I think 3,000 or 4,000 entries from all over the San Joaquin Valley. People heard about it because it's 1937. I mean, people were still suffering from the Depression, really. And this is the name that won. Old Kern Beer. And in later, this is the original bottle that I, from what I've been able to discern. Later, they did a taller bottle, and they had a little medallion on the top that, because it's Old Kern, it said okay in the medallion, okay beer. So this is actually, from what I've heard from my little experts, Ken Hooper and various people, a rare, unique bottle that just isn't around anymore.
We have one other one. I talked to one of my daughters, and she has one in her storage. And that one is probably in better shape than that one because I know her.
She should
take the best.
Okay. She should hang on to that because I don't know what these things are worth. And I did talk to Lori Ware. She's the curator at the Kern County Museum. And she was very interested in this and said, if the family wanted to donate this stuff at some point, they would love to have a little... maybe some sort of display of it, because breweries in Kern County in Bakersfield were really interesting. They started in the 1860s, and they sort of, they got to be really big, and then they'd go out of business, and then they got to be really big, and then they'd go out of business. And this one, the advertisements that we have in the old newspapers that we have from the 30s, they were spending a ton of money. They were extremely involved in the community. They had sports teams they sponsored. They had beer tasting nights. They were very involved in the community, but unfortunately it seems that they went bankrupt in 1941. So there's no more of these around.
No, you're not going to find them.
No. So I really appreciate you bringing it in. I think it's really cool.
Very good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
All right. Well, thanks.